Hey, discerning listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, the other way, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, everything that I'm saying in these videos is completely speculative based on very little information. I cannot diagnose from afar, and I'm not interested in it. So just keep that in mind as we watch.
Неприемлемое. Пытается соблюдать свои религиозные вот эти вот принципы, но заботясь о себе, а не об Алине. Тебе нужно серьезно поговорить со Стивеном. И никаких компромиссов.
What? Okay, so for Stephen, he's saying, according to my religion, or at the advice of my religion, I can't be with you. I can't live with you until we're married. And it's really common, not only for Mormons, but around the world. I would say probably a majority of people around the world, regardless of religion, would adhere to at least some version of that, value. And Alina was upset about that. She's like, wait, so I'm going to be in a separate apartment? And I get that. Alina's entitled to be upset about that. But I think that if you are going to date and marry a Mormon, you would know that they're not going to just throw away their religion. In fact, he wants to convert Alina. So they're entitled to their feelings, but what's the logic about, I don't know. So anyway, it sounded like Alina was accepting that and it had adjusted to that idea. Then the mom pipes in with, that's unacceptable. I can't believe you're doing that. Instead of asking Alina, what do you want? I have my reactions, your mother, that sounds ridiculous, but what do you want, Alina? Instead, the mom is just bulldozing forward and saying, this is unacceptable. You have to demand without any compromise that you live with him. And over, I don't know, just my values, it's not that big of a deal. They plan on spending the rest of their lives together and get married. What's another, 1 or 2 months where they live next door to each other? It's just like they, technically speaking, they don't sleep in the same place. They probably are spending every waking hour together. So it's not like it's some, horrible transgression upon Alina as a human being that they are in different apartments. It's not a big deal. But the mom is like, without compromise, this has to be totally changed and you must change it. And we see Alina's face because I'm guessing Alina's like, I don't think that's going to work. Let's see what Alina says.
Что возможно, это невозможно, ты просто ставишь его перед фактом.
Meaning you're not asking him, you're telling him. Now, under some circumstances, this is rational. If someone, for example, was going to send your kids away on a dangerous field trip of, like some sort of thing that goes outside the country, and you've looked into the situation, you're like, that's unsafe for our kids, and you're talking with your mom, and your mom's like, look, you cannot agree to this, no compromises, you just have to tell him this is a no-go. Okay, under some circumstances, but this, the fact that they're just in 2 different apartments up until the time that they get married, and they're spending what is the mom's concern? Like, what wrong, what crime upon humanity is being committed here? Is the mom just against Mormonism? I think we've seen that, and this is some kind of battleground on that front. Is the mom just like this? Is she rigid about this? If the goal is, look, if you're going to, I can understand the mom being like, look, if the two of you are going to get to know each other and you're going to start the rest of your life, you have to live together. I don't know if everyone would agree with that, but you can understand. But so if your goal is to help them with their relationship and living together would help that, then great. But it doesn't seem like the mom's really on that. So what's the goal? Now, maybe the mom is thinking it's unsafe for Alina to be in her own place in Turkey. That would at least give some justification. Let's see what she says.
I know that my mom is very concerned about Steven, and I still haven't told her that he asked me if he can go on dates.
So some of you commented below and informed me that for Mormons, they are often encouraged to date other people even as they are heading into engagement, because it is a forever relationship. Not only a relationship for your lifetime, but in the afterlife, it is eternal. You're married on earth, and then you're married in the heavens for eternity. So obviously, it should be a very important decision. You should really make sure that this is your eternal person. And so the Mormon church, I think probably rationally, is like, you should probably shop around before you choose someone to marry. This might also be a response to how premarital sex is frowned upon or even condemned, and how this can cause many people to get married really fast without thinking about it first, because they want to have sex. And maybe the Mormon church has realized we should probably have some kind of doctrine or advice system to help our young parishioners to slow down and take their time. And maybe as a part of that, they were telling Stephen, look, it sounds like you found someone and you're dating, and it sounds like you're really into them, but you should probably date some more people to make sure. Now, as an advice bit, giving someone advice like that, it's fine. But when you codify it in their religion, it can push people in directions that they don't actually want to go naturally. Because I'm guessing, given what we've seen from Stephen, he wouldn't, if it wasn't a part of his religion, he'd be like, no, I'm good with Alina. He seems, or at least he seems really into it. Now, we don't know if this is the reason why Stephen asked her to date other people, but it would explain why it seemed to come out of the blue. Let's watch.
Can you see those people? They are very suspicious. Какой подозрительный.
You said it right, suspicious.
And they will kidnap me.
But look, there's police all over here.
I feel like you don't understand me.
Okay, so we're hearing from Alina as to why she wants to be with him, because she's afraid. She doesn't want to sleep alone in her apartment, which makes total sense. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people would feel that way, and there's some rationale to that. And that's okay. Also, for him, he is saying, according to my religion, or according to the advice in my religion, it's important that we don't sleep in the same place, because we might get tempted. We might actually sleep together, which would ruin our life. I don't know. And that's okay as well. How do they talk to each other? And she is expressing some fear. And it would have been, and he's trying to fix it. You hear, I don't know if I showed it, but he's saying things like, look, there are police here, and everything will be fine. Instead of empathizing. And this is key for people out there. And I know some couples are watching right now, and I see you. Is the first thing you should do is to understand what the other person is telling you. Very important, because until you establish that, the other person isn't going to feel good, and they're often just going to keep doubling down. So, Stephen, one of the best things you could do in this situation would be like, yeah, I hear you that sleeping in your own apartment or hotel room would be scary, and that you won't feel comfortable with that. I understand you on that. The fallacy that people have in Stephen's position is, if I agree, or even if I just acknowledge what they're saying, that means I have to change my mind. That does not mean you have to change your mind. You can say to someone, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm still not going to change my mind. It's actually, parenting has a lot of moments like this. I understand that you don't want to go to bed right now, and I understand you want to stay up and watch TV. I know how that feels, to have to do something you don't want to do, to miss out on something. But that's the rule. 8 o'clock is bedtime, and it's time to go to bed. So you can understand someone, and one, because they deserve to be understood, and they deserve to be told you understand. But also, sometimes literally 90 to 100% of the problem is that lack of understanding. That if you can understand someone and really convey that, sometimes if Stephen were to say, I get you, and really convey that he understands her, and yet say, but I still can't do it. It's just against my religion. Alina might be okay with that. I mean, not 100%, but she might be like, oh, okay, well, at least he understands me, and Then the next part of it is to convince you're incorporating that. I see that you're upset. I see that you're scared. I feel it. I'm scared for you. It makes total sense that you'd be afraid. And I believe me, if I could fix this problem, I would. But my religion is so important to me, and this is totally against religious advice for us to be in the same apartment. And you know how important my religion is to me. So I'm so sorry, but I have to say no to that. Let's see what they say.
I need Steven to understand how it's important for me to feel safe. I don't know what's going to happen.
So you even hear how she says it. I need him to understand how important it is for me. And she's not phrasing it, I need him to change his mind. I just need him to understand. Now, maybe that's, a sort of nicer way of saying I need him to change his mind. But, it's interesting the way that she described it.
One more? One more?
No.
One more?
Tonight's the first night me and Alina are without our moms. There's no chaperone. There's no one telling us what to do. It feels really good.
So, yeah, he said we were without our moms. What does that mean? Does that mean that when they were together the first time they were with their moms? I don't know. But I will say, I'm very happy for people when they are in love and they're being lovey-dovey and, they're all googly eyes with each other and they haven't seen each other much and they're still in that early phase of the relationship, I think, where there's all that pent-up energy and they've seen each other in person for 2 weeks and they've been dating for a year now. And I'm all for it. It's what makes the world go around. Half of the art that has ever been created is about moments like this, but I don't know if we need to watch it. It's great, but I feel like this is a very private moment, and but let's watch.
I don't think I'll really have a problem sleeping on the couch. I mean, it's pretty big. If I like her to sleep, it'd be like totally big enough.
What are you doing? Is it comfortable?
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's not too bad.
Okay.
So wait, he's going to sleep on the couch and she's just in the room next, just down the hall. Was that the original plan? Because if it was, why did he frame it like they were staying in different places? If this wasn't the plan and he adjusted, that's interesting. Maybe they'll tell us.
Okay, so I'll stay here tonight. Tomorrow, the hostel.
No, I
I see. So he agreed to stay with her the first night, and then later on he's going to stay at a hostel, which is, I'm guessing not very close by. So, I think a compromise would be just get a place next door. It's probably too expensive, maybe. Anyway. All right, so my contention, both of their assertions or desires or preferences are fine. And this is a frequent thing that would happen in couples therapy, is that two people come to the table and they're both right, but they frame it like the other one is wrong, instead of listening to each other and trying to go from that foundation of, well, we're both right. So, and by the way, a very frequent thing that I would see is parents who parent differently to kids. My evaluation, both of them were within the limits of good parenting, with minor exceptions, would call the other parent wrong because it's different than what they're used to. So let's see how they take care of each other in this situation.
I am in foreign country. I'm very young and I'm attractive, so I need Steven to protect me. Also, I'm not going to let him stay in a hostel where he can communicate with other girls. I don't know.
Yeah, again, the preference is fine. To communicate with other girls, though, that's an interesting way of looking at the situation. He's been halfway across the globe in the United States for 50 out of the 52 weeks that you've been together, and could obviously talk with other girls there as well. So it's interesting that she has, I think, a theme of insecure attachment that manifests in jealousy and hypervigilance. I don't know. But again, she's fine. Let's see how they communicate about it. I think it's an interesting dilemma because on one hand, it makes total sense that she's like, look, I'm in a foreign country. I don't feel safe and I need you to sleep here. I think that's totally reasonable. It's also totally reasonable, given his religion, that he can't do that. A lot of people in his religion and a lot of religions can't do that. So let's watch.
I think I understand where you're coming from. But our faith, they're not super
good. As I was saying, it's great if you can reflect and validate. He could have done better by really, giving that a little bit more space. I think, he said, I think I understand where you're coming from. Instead of, I really understand where you're coming from. Let me tell you, I get it. You're in a foreign country. You're young. You're attractive. You're living in this big place. You don't feel safe. You haven't been away from home before, and you're just going to be sleeping in this big place all by yourself. Yeah, I totally, really emphasize, because I think that could go a long way to build goodwill and might help to convince the other person as well. Now, if I was their friend, I don't know who I would agree with. I think I'd be like, yeah, it's, both sides. It's hard to know. I guess probably as a friend, as a civilian, I would probably say, just sleep on the couch and use your self-control. And how about the two of you work on making some agreements that neither one of you is going to do anything that's going to lead to a slippery slope that'll lead to you doing something that is against your religion. It seems like that wouldn't be that hard to do. The other thing, I haven't said this yet, but it's a bit of a funny, almost simplistic or like a childish way of looking at things, that sex only happens at nighttime, because obviously you can have sex anytime. And just the fact that they're not sleeping in the same apartment means that they won't have sex together, because that's what he's been saying. He hasn't been saying it's a value of his religion. He's been saying, according to his religion, you want to avoid temptation, and if we sleep in the same place, it'll threaten temptation. And I suppose maybe, but presumably they're going to be making out. They're already almost doing that on this couch already. So, and that can happen at noon. So it seems like if they want both, they could have both. They could have safety and he could sleep there, and they could talk about how they're going to work together to avoid going down a slippery slope.
approving of cohabitation, which means like a boy and a girl living together. What if you're not able to get baptized because of that? That's just something really important to me. With trying to prepare you for baptism, we might not be able to control ourselves.
Okay, I want to rewind that because I think this is an important clarification. I think I heard two different things. On one hand, I think he was saying it is about cohabitation, and that is a sin, and I need to avoid that. Or was he saying, if we cohabitate, we might have sex, which will lead to you not being able to be baptized? And let me know in the comments below if you know precisely what he's talking about. If I'm going to take a guess with my limited knowledge of Mormonism, is that for the Stephens of the world, they, there's this sort of tier. I remember hearing Mormons talk about there's like this tier system where the pinnacle is that you're married in the temple, and to even set foot in the temple, you have to be approved of by the clergy. And in order to be approved of by the clergy, you have to demonstrate purity and, I don't know, various different things that you have to do and not do. And if you do any of those, if you do things or don't do things that you can't get into the temple, and you can't get married in the temple, and you have to get married in a regular ward, which is like just your local church building, which is fine. But on the ranking of good Mormons versus bad Mormons, of course, they wouldn't word it that way, but it's kind of engineered that way, right? Then you're a lesser Mormon. I'm sure, and Mormons are all over the world. There are millions and millions of them, so there's various different manifestations of that. But so I'm wondering if that's what he's talking about. It's like, I need us to be pure so that you can get baptized one, and two, so that we can actually get married in the temple or maybe in the ward, which, you know, okay, that's his value. But I want to rewind this because I think this is important clarification given to know about where he's coming from.
But our faith, they're not super approving of cohabitation, which means like a boy and a girl living together. What if you're not able to get baptized because of that? That's just something really important to me. With trying to prepare you for baptism, we might not be able to control ourselves.
Okay, so I think he is saying what I think he was saying. And again, if that's his values and that's his religion, then that's his religion. And it's a sacrifice. You know, a lot of religions involve sacrifice. And one of the sacrifices he's asking the two of them to make is that she's going to have to sleep by herself and risk, you know, being attacked in the middle of the night. And that's the risk you take. Now, the huge question I have is she on board with, one, the two of them being Mormon, and two, him being Mormon? Because those are two different questions. You know, one is am I okay with exploring me becoming Mormon, because he is seeking that, and that would be I think that's a huge deal to him. The second thing is, am I just even okay with him being a Mormon and me not being a Mormon? Because I think that's important, because if she's not okay with him being a Mormon, then that would explain why she's having a hard time adjusting to his Mormon values. But if she is okay with him being a Mormon, then she might have to accept, look, a long time ago, I decided that I was going to accept him, even though I'm not cool with it. And I have to understand that's where he's coming from. I guess this is one of those instances. Now, the other thing that just pops in my head is she could stay at the hostel, because if she's worried about sleeping, you know, by herself, maybe that would help, but then maybe that would make her. But there might be all-girl hostels, particularly in Turkey, maybe, where she might feel more safe. I don't know. Or there's some other kind of place she could live in that's more secure or something. You know, it just seems like there's other potential avenues.
But with you...
Wait, no. I think that it sounds like an excuse. You can challenge your faith by this. Понимаешь, test your faith.
Yeah.
I can lock the door.
Right. Okay. They're having that conversation that I was thinking that they should. It's like, look, you could sleep here and I'll lock the door. And how about this? I agree not to have sex with you until we're married, because, you know, you say that you're going to have a hard time with temptation, but I'm not going to have a hard time with it. So I'll lock the door. You know, but again, I think for him, it's not just sex, which of course is a big deal for him, but also just living in the same place. But I don't know, it seems like other Mormons would make an exception under this situation, wouldn't they?
For the night. I don't believe that there is no way to control yourself.
I feel like it's very understandable. I feel like everyone has those urges.
So I don't know where Stephen is coming from, but I agree with Alina. And I wonder if for him, he either, one, has a problem with controlling himself, which is possible, and he seems to be alluding to that kind of, or he's been brainwashed into believing that either the devil is behind every corner, or that our animalistic, sinful nature is very powerful, and unless we do a lot to, you know, control it, we will fly out of control for sure. Or even though we understand we're not likely to commit that sin, as they might consider it, it is such a huge risk. Why take the risk? But I don't know. He seems to be exhibiting this point of view that we are, and I've heard people have, and I've heard religious people have this point of view of, unless we clamp down with high rigidity and total religious vigorousness, our animalistic, sinful nature will just completely run rampant, and ruin the world. And, you could make an argument that that's true, I suppose, but I don't think that's going to resonate with Alina.
If we were sleeping in the same area, it'd be a lot more tempting to scootily poop.
That's got to be a meme by now. Scootily poop? Interesting. Fine. Everyone has their different words. I don't know if Alina's on board with that. Maybe Alina's looking at the producer like, is this an American thing? Scootily poop. Okay, it's fine. Everyone has words. Me and Stacy, the pod wife, have all sorts of words that we use. It is one of those things that doesn't translate well into the outside world. I mean, all y'all out there, comment below a word that you use with your spouse or have used that other people would make a meme out of you if they knew if you were on a reality TV show. I'm going to try to think of one for me. Well, I've talked about the names that we've given our animals that are just ridiculous. Like we have Princess Leia, who just becomes Leia, and then Stacy started calling her Little, and then that went to Lidu, and then I thought she was saying we do, and so I started calling her we do, and then I started calling her Weeds, and so now we call her Weeds. The dog is now Weeds. So it went from Princess Leia to Little to Lidu to we do to Weeds. But there are other things in human life that have those kinds of words that become ridiculous to the outside world, like I think I have to ask the pod wife if it's okay for me to reveal, but there's words for all sorts of things. I'll tell you one from my childhood, so that won't embarrass my wife. Is we had this word for going number one, and it was shishi, which sounds ridiculous when I say it out loud, but it was this Japanese holdover. Now I'm sure in Japan now they do not say shishi. I'm guessing because my Japanese that was passed down to my family came from the 1800s in Japan, because that's when my ancestors came over to Washington State. And so the Japanese words that are used that were passed down is a very old version of Japanese. And so, but anyway, we would use this word like shishi. And in my family, and people still use it with young kids now. And when I say it out loud, it sounds ridiculous, right? And if I was on a reality TV show and I turned to Stacy, I said, do you have to go shishi? We got to leave soon. Do you have to go shishi? I'm guessing I would be a meme and, So anyway, but it is interesting to think about if, they're young. So I have to keep that in mind. I think they're early 20s, or at least she is. Basically kids, in my view. And then for Steven, the vibe he's coming across is immature or playful or naive or something almost like a child. It's to be expected on a number of reasons. One is I'm sure he's very inexperienced in situations like this, given his age and his limitations in life. But also, it might just be kind of his personality. I think he's also just kind of dorky, and his way of livening things up is to play into the dorkiness, I think. Anyway, so the, what do you say, skidly poop? It could be emblematic of this childishness that we're starting to see. I don't know. That's a long shot, but let's keep watching.
What does scootling poop means?
Scootily pooping is when you do it.
Do what?
Having sex, intercourse.
So I'm guessing he got that word from somewhere, maybe in his family. That would be my suspicion, that his parents would say, like, hey, remember, don't sleep in the same room, because remember, scoodly poop. Or maybe in his youth group at the church, that they would call it that. Again, to my ears, it's like nails on a chalkboard to say that word, but everyone has their thing. Like I said, comment below, let me know your thing. Let's normalize Steven for a second. I'm not saying Steven is a great person. I'm just saying let's not pile on and bully someone just because they have something that we all kind of do. Or I think we all do it. Don't we do it?
If you're not comfortable with it, then we can cancel
Yes, we can do that.
it. Okay.
Her insistence on us staying in the same apartment makes me nervous because I've sinned before, and I've been waiting to confess to Alina that I'm not a virgin.
You ready to go to bed?
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like they negotiated it. And she was being nice about it, firm, smiley, holding hands, saying yes, and he was being flexible, saying, well, if he's really pressing on it, really like, hey, no, I'm going to do this. And she's like, no, I don't want you to. I feel this way. And he's like, I understand where you're coming from about my religion. And she's like, I still don't like it. And then he says, maybe I could cancel it if you want me. She's like, yeah, I need you to cancel it. Really? Yeah, do it. But nicely, not in the tone I was having it, with the emphasis that I had it. And then he's like, okay. And now he's like, all right, I guess I'm just going to have to deal with the temptation. And maybe they can just work on ways that they will be able to not have sex. Just lock the door, other kinds of things. Now, a big thing is drinking. So if they avoid drinking, I would imagine that would really eliminate a lot of the risk. That's just a guess. But anyway, I just keep thinking they're going to make out, right? I mean, maybe they won't, but there's going to be some making out. So I guess that's when the test will happen. and knowing this show, they'll show us the temptation. I don't know. Let's watch.
Would have kept the law of chastity, and if I would have waited for marriage.
You look so cute in your pajamas. I was thinking before we go to bed, I brought my Russian scriptures. Let's read chapter 6.
All right. So might seem weird to some people, but a lot of couples do this. A lot of dating couples will do this. And if anything's going to put a kibosh on the scoodly poop, it's going to be reading the Bible before you go to bed together. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Thank you, all of you who have subscribed and liked and commented and hit the bell and done all those things. I appreciate it. When we post a video, I look at the stats and see how many likes to dislikes there are. And it's nice to know that some people take the time, to just click that thing as a little positive feedback. When I click on those up thumbs things, I consider it kind of like when I go to a show or something and I clap. They don't need me to clap. If I didn't clap, it's not like the person on stage would mind, but the collective of all the claps, is feedback from the crowd to continue doing that. So that's what it feels. I'm sure other people have made that connection, but anyway, that and that's how I receive it. If I get a lot of likes, then I'm like, okay, that feels good, because believe it or not, when I post things, I am always, I don't know, slightly worried that this is the time when everyone figures out that I'm a fraud and that I don't deserve to be on YouTube. And it's nice, it keeps me going. It's the wind beneath my wings, those little indications. But anyway, everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.